What's going on, YouTube? So it's hard forming relationships with black men, right? It's hard. I know it's hard. There's a lot of issues, of course. That's why we talk about it. Um, but it's a two-sided problem, right? In terms of relationships with black men, on the black man side, yes, we have all sorts of commitment issues. Problems with staying faithful and working and all that other stuff. We know that stuff, right? That's why there's no need to really talk about it, right? As a man, I know black men are fucked up. The women know black men are fucked up. So everybody knows. So there's no point in me going into any further detail on why black men are so, right? When there's the whole other side of the equation has not really been touched, right? Or even unwrapped. So I'm gonna talk about both sides of the equation. Like, why is it hard to form relationships with black men in terms of, really trying to be serious in terms of having some long-term commitment that later grows into marriage, right? On the women's side, it has to start with the fact, and this doesn't matter if you are black or non-black, right? It has to do with the idea that black men are seen to be at the bottom, right? The women consciously and unconsciously know this. We're seen at the bottom, right? So the whole idea of enforcing standards is hard for us to do, right? You go to any culture, right? And there's this certain standard that women know that they have to have in terms of being in a solid relationship, right? It varies by culture, but you have to dress a certain way, you have to talk a certain way, you have to be able to conduct yourself a certain way. There has to be some sort of standard, right? And the women, they adhere to it, right? Because they don't want to be left out, correct? Right? Because they know, hey, there are people below me. And that's just how I feel, right? And you can break it down in terms of, income class, right? A middle-class white chick, if she wants to marry within middle class, I don't care what race the guy is, she knows that there are standards that she has to hold, right? Unless, or if she does not, she may fall out of that realm, right? And be outside the party. Right, but in terms of black men, right, there is no standard. Now, granted, right, certain black men embrace the fact that they're at the bottom, but me and a whole bunch of men don't. But we're still stuck in a predicament, right, because we're black, right? Just because we are good, like the few of us can't really increase the standard of all the black men, right? So kind of whatever, people go off of in terms of their opinions of black men, whether we like it or not, we're victims of it, right? So we have a whole bunch of women who, quite frankly, are into us, right? Theoretically, right? That don't really have standards because we are seen at the bottom, right? Like I've said before, right? And I've said it again. You can check my videos. I said this a while ago. I talked about how even the non-black women that we get are pretty much the women that get kicked out of their culture. They can't go back and forth. And I use Kim Kardashian as an example, right? There's nothing that she can do to change her situation, if she wants to all of a sudden wake up and be traditional, right? Her damage has been done. She will forever date black dudes. And there's a whole bunch of non-celebrity women on a day-to-day basis that we see every day who fit into that Kim Kardashian category, right? So what does that mean, right? It means that, hey, if I don't fall within my own standards of my own group, well, I can go date black men, right? Because they're at the bottom anyways. That's what it means. A lot of black women don't think, we understand this. A lot of black women think that we're caught up and we think that these women are just the greatest women in the world. Like, we're not stupid. That's why when black men say we are not chasing non-black women, if you're a black woman, please believe us. We are not chasing anybody down. We're not chasing women that got kicked out of their own culture. Trust me, if I'm going after a white chick or whatever she is, no white guys competing with me. They're laughing. You can have her. They're not really tripping. They don't really care. So we're not chasing after anybody, right? They'll say she has no standards anyway. You can keep her, right? And the sad thing is that all these non-black women, right, the women that get, kicked out of their culture, automatically they exclusively date black men. all they're doing pretty much is mimicking black women, right? They see the fact that, whoa, wait a minute, as black women, right, their standards are lax. They can be whatever. She can have kids. She doesn't have to be educated. She can be ghetto. She can be hood. She can be skinny. She can be big. Oh, she can have multiple sex partners. She can be whatever she wants to be, right? And they're looking at that. And they're seeing that, and they're like, wait a minute. Well, if this is the standard for black men, and I got kicked out of my own racial group, then hey, I might as well hop in and join the parade. Right? So the women don't factor this in terms of the whole idea of, the good black man having relationship type issues. Right? We have standards, but because we are seen at the bottom, we can't enforce our standards. So what do? We just don't form committed relationships. It's as simple as that. Like every day, the whole idea of marriage becomes less and less, right? I believe in monogamy, don't get me wrong, for health and, spiritual reasons, right? Mainly health. I'm not trying to catch anything. But this whole idea of this traditional religious type marriage goes out the way, because when you're dealing with religion and you're dealing with marriage, what are you dealing with? Standards. Certain standards that women have to have, certain standards that men have to have. But if you are black, the women you get have no standards. So how can you possibly hold them to any type of religious standard, right, based off the very fact that, they got kicked out of their own racial group because they have no standards? And that's the problem. Women don't want to see it. They want to blame black men for just not, forming strong relationships, right, and, incapable of, forming loving, bonding relationships. But how can you form any loving bond relationship when you have women, black or not, right, who very much, right, have no sort of standard, right? But at the same time, they're going to want unconditional love from you, and the love that they give you is very much conditional. It doesn't make any sense, right? People talk about black men need to step their game up. Yes, they need to step their game up, right? But if you're a black chick or a non-black woman who feels like, they're entitled to black men, don't for one second think that we don't have standards as well, right? If I'm going to step my standards up, I'm going to expect the same from you. So anyways, take it easy. God bless.